So you've got your first Latin connection at this time, again, before crack becomes like the biggest thing to hit like the urban areas ever. How much were you moving a week? How many bricks? What were you making?
Well, when I finally clicked in with Edgar and Sal, they had a falling out. And they split their customers. And Edgar got me. And I'm buying at this time. I'm buying like 2 kilos myself. And one day he says, "Hey, it was around Christmas time," and he says, "Hey, man, I have a gift for you." Damn, I don't have a gift for you. So he comes to my house, and he has 2 boxes of Dom Perignon. It says Dom Perignon outside. One of them was a case of Dom Perignon. I'd never had Dom Perignon in my life. It's a case. The other case had 5 kilos in it. Turning point.
What was the ticket on those keys?
I think at that time I might have been right around 26, 28, about 28.
Yeah.
And that's how I was able to start selling them for $1,000.
Right.
At that time. Because I'm saying to myself, boom, with a little bit of cut, I can stretch the 36 and the 40.
Yeah.
And if I sold the 40 for $1,000 a piece, that's $40,000. Only paying 28.
Yep. So 12 times 5. So yeah, so you just made off of 5 birds, it's 60 G's, and you're getting rid of that in a day to your people.
Probably about, not a day, probably about a week, a good week's work.
But that's a millionaire. That basically made you your first million, I assume.
And so, yeah, that helped me to really dive in and corner the market. I remember a guy.
Because now you're, sorry to cut you off, but now just for people, just to get people's context, he started out selling ounces for $2,200. Now he's lowered the street price to $1,000
They were mad at me. They were mad. Wow. They were mad. We had a family meeting. We had to have a family meeting about it. Oh, what is he doing to the market? What is he doing? Stop it.
No, man. I think that
I made a deal. This was my deal. I said, "Hey, man, here's the deal. You buy from me, I'll stop." Simple.
Yeah.
They declined because they had their own connection.
Yeah.
They had their own. They had their own connection, and they were, they were happy in their respect what they were doing. And okay, so let me go on back over here and keep doing what I'm doing then.
And you took more of the customers. You got the better price.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So,
CT Jr., he was gone. He was gone to prison. So it was just, go. So now it's just he and I, we have a little friendly price war. Yeah. But at the same time, we know, and if you know, we're controlling probably 75% of the city. And I was telling a guy the other day, a guy calls me up and he says, little small time guy. And he says, hey, JB, I read the book. Okay. He says, I listened to the interviews. Okay. He said, I'm from the city. Okay. He said, we all were bosses. You're right. He said, well, I don't think you made it like everybody worked for you. And I says, no, I didn't make it seem like that. And he says, because, we all were bosses. And I said, hey, okay, if you got drugs from 1980 to 1990, those drugs came from the A team, the B team, Chill, a guy by the name of Blackhead. Those 4 controlled the drug trade in San Francisco. Those 4 people,
The city's not that big.
city's not that big, but we had people coming from Oakland,
Yeah.
Palo Alto, Richmond. You know, my cousin Goldie, he opened up a car wash in Berkeley. You know, and he's in the East Bay, and he's cutting deep until Oakland's trade. You know, to the point where I had to have a talk with one of my dear friends, you know, to put them together so it didn't be a war.
Right.
You know,
but I do think at a certain point, I could be wrong, but I think you eventually become the top out of those 5 groups. I think you become the man. I don't think anybody was. I mean, were they all getting 1,000 kilos on consignment from Colombians?
No.
That's a big deal.
No.
Colombians don't just deal with you.
They don't deal with you at all.
So I think it's a good summation anyways, but let's move up to this.
Okay.
By the way, tell us about, so that's a lot of market. That's a lot of markets, a lot of people using Coke. Oakland was, little Daryl, who was the son of Felix Mitchell. No,
he's
right? I'm sorry.
No, he's his auntie has a child by Felix. So Felix would be essentially an uncle, but not a blood uncle.
Right.
But you know, uncle, and then he came up under, you know, Felix, you know, in the mob.
Can you tell us about who Felix Mitchell is really quick, please?
Felix Mitchell was a very flashy guy that sold a lot of heroin in Oakland. And a lot of people, including myself, you know, tried to take a page out of his book and implement it to myself. Felix is probably one of the, he will go down as one of the largest drug dealers in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
You know, that much respect, you know, to him, you know.
Yeah, when he got killed, there's YouTube footage of his funeral going through Oakland, and it looks like a mafia funeral.
Yes.
There's like Bentleys going through it, and, you know, this giant gaudy hearse. You know, it's ridiculous. But yeah, he was really like a drug lord for a time.
Yes.
And why he was murdered in federal prison, I believe.
He was murdered in federal prison.
Can you, what is the lore behind that? What was behind that?
Well, some people say it was about a $10 debt. A $10 debt. At this time, he was in Leavenworth, Kansas. And at this time, you could have money in prison.
Whoa.
Well, it was only dimes and quarters, dimes. And so he supposedly loaned a guy a roll of dimes, and the guy didn't pay him when he was supposed to pay him. And he had some goons that was, you know, sniffing up his butt and wanted to make a statement for him. Hey, Felix, the guy didn't pay you, man. He's down there gambling. So they go down there and shake the guy up. And the guy, in the guy's mind, he thinks Felix sent him. Felix didn't send him. And so he ends up coming into Felix's cell and stabbing him. And he dies.
And so it was his kind of godson, if you will, godnephew, little Daryl, who was your generation.
Little Daryl's my generation. Little Daryl is one of the reasons why Deep Rooted is even a topic right now, is because he was like, hey, man, I know the story. I'll write it. You better write, you know, because he wrote a book. You know,
is he incarcerated?
No, he's out. He's out.
Okay, because I believe he was sentenced to life.
No, he had
was
35. He had I had 30. He had 35.
And he was an even younger kingpin than you.
Oh yeah, he started out when he was about 17, man.
Because according to this book, he's 19 years old with 100 birds.
Yes.
When you're 19, you're a child. Like now. Like when I was 19, I was a kid. I was taking beer bongs and in toga at toga parties in college. He's dealing with
hundreds of kilos,
huge narcotics.
Yes.
Good times.
Good times. That's a good times roll.
Right. So he was so anyways, that's the setting that we now have, Oakland and San Francisco. And basically, I assume it's just these 6 groups that are controlling all of the drugs in Northern California, the Central Valley, and up into Oregon.
Yeah.
Right?
And like people
say,
you know, and I say, you know, I went across the bridge, you know, and partnered up with, well, actually, he came got me. You know, he partnered up with me. And I was like, man, all the people in Oakland, why you pick me? He says, you're different.
Mm-hmm.
You're really, really different, man. You know,
you were.
He said, you're different. He says, I think, you know, and I'd been trying to meet him and he'd been trying to meet me, you know, and we met, you know, we met in Caesars one day and, you know, we talked and we actually flew home together, not knowing we were on the same flight. We flew home together. We talked and I told him, you know, what do you know? You know, what areas do you know in San Francisco? Man, I don't know many areas, man. I see, you know, okay, you know what a Palladium is. Yeah, I know what a Palladium is. Meet me at the Palladium. He don't know what I'm bringing him. I just told him to meet me there. And I hand him a brick. I didn't bring no money because what are you going for? I don't want nothing. That's yours. I just want your order. Give me your order. He says, okay. He took it back and he called me. He says, hey, man, good work. I like it. You know, what's the ticket? 15. He says, okay, well, let me get 100 of those. And I said, nah. He says, you don't have them? I says, no, you already got one. I'm going to give you 99.
So you were able to give him kilos for 15,000 a piece?
Yeah.
So then what was your ticket?
At that time, I think I might have been paying 14. I didn't make a lot of money off him.
Well, whatever. It's 200 G's for passing it off.
It was a volume.
Yeah, of course.
It was a volume what I could do. And only reason why I made the $1,000 because he made me charge him that. He told me, hey man, I said, man, I'm gonna just give it to you what I paid for it because I know what we can do. He says, no, you got to make something. I said, don't worry about it. He said, how about 1,000? I'll pay you 1,000 over costs. I said, okay.
Yeah.
You know, and that was part of the 1,000 that I'd gotten.
Yeah.
He was my first 100-kilo purchaser.
Wow. So you just wanted to
I wanted to be able to move them.
Yeah.
Because I'd never gotten 1,000.
Yeah. Right. And then when your Colombians see that you're moving it like that, I mean, you can do no wrong.
Exactly.
How many 100-kilo customers did you have by the end?
I had him. I had a guy out of he's out of Palo Alto, Rusty. Rusty would grab 100 from me also. Yeah. You know, but my other guys were like 50s and 75s and stuff like that. And then like my main guy, you know, Donnie Robinson, he had a lot of people. So Donnie had a free reign with me. He knew where they were kept. He could just basically go in and get what he wanted.
Right.
You know, hey Doc, you know, somebody wants 25. Go get them.
So it essentially sounds like the B team was just a union of all bosses, but you were the one that was bringing the supply in, I
was just a guy that had the connection.
You facilitated the logistics of it. But here, go grab what you need, and I'm going to take a little fee for the shipping and handling.
Exactly.
Wow, fascinating.
You know, I mean, I you know, that's why I say, you know, I'll put my guys right now today in 2025 against anybody else's in the world. Yeah. You know, so in the country. You know, a lot of people don't even have 5 guys that they even associate with that was part of their crew. You know, there's no crew no more. You know, Donnie was able to take, you know, the B team and start Kings of Cali. You know, Kings of Cali's been around for 25 years as a motorcycle club. Yeah. You know, that was a spinoff. Yeah. That's a spinoff of the B team.
Yeah. Wow. And there was and I assume there's so much money coming in. Everybody's eating tough, to put it lightly. There's very little violence.
Very little. Very little.
I think you guys torched a guy's car from LA.
We torched a guy's Rolls Royce. You know, he came from Los Angeles to the Bay Area. He was fighting a murder case. And his partner asked me would I allow him to work to make money to go back to fight the murder case. I said, sure. Sure, no problem. But here's the thing. I didn't have any problem with that. And I don't have any problem with anybody. You know, I don't have any problem with Crips. I don't have any problems with Bloods. I don't have no problems with anybody. This is just an area that I was born and raised in, 3 generations deep, and I wasn't sharing it. I don't want to share it. Not with no outsiders anyway. So I let him come in and do his thing. And I said, don't bring anybody up here. Don't come up here and set up shop. Don't bring 4 or 5 of your homeboys up here. And he tried me. I had his car burnt up.
Yeah.
And told him, go back to Los Angeles.
Right.
And I told you, don't do that.
Yeah.
You know, so people have gotten a misconception of me saying that. No. Bloods and Crips are more than welcome in the Bay Area. They were welcome under my time. Okay?
It sounds like it sounds like they were welcome, but they just had to buy from you.
No, they were welcome to visit. They wasn't welcome to set up shop. They wasn't welcome to come in there with 10 of their homeboys and take over a section of the city like they did in most cities and states. That's what they were doing. We just didn't allow that to happen in the Bay Area.
No. Because you're right. They did that everywhere else in the country.
And I said, you know, some of my friends, I mean, like he was a friend of mine, you know, more than, again, that wasn't the case. The case, they were not allowed to come set up shop. They were allowed to come up there and visit their family and whatever they wanted to do, and just don't bring your crew.